Here we go. There we go. Third time's the charm. Man, oh man. At this point, Justin, it doesn't feel like a right way to start this thing.
No, just go. Just go.
We just gotta roll right into it. This is like our third or fourth try trying to start the podcast, and every time it's just been a miserable fail.
Boy.
We're back. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Celtics Talk Weekly podcast. We got a lot to talk about. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened since the last time we've gotten a chance to sit down, Justin, and obviously we've talked off screen, off the camera, but now we get to sit down and talk on the camera for the first time in a while. Again, the Celtics rolling right now. Rough loss last night. We're going to jump into all of that. Before we do, guys, just want to say the podcast is back, and make sure you're following us on social media as we're gearing up for a very, very fun playoff run here. Again, the links will be in the description, but at Celtics Talk Weekly and at Celtics Rising on Instagram, at Celtics Weekly on X, everything will be down below, guys. And again, we're super excited to get into this episode, Justin. And again, it's been a while, a lot to talk about, but you know, we've kind of did our best to consolidate everything into we think's the most important. Yeah. And last time we talked, somebody wasn't on the court. Now he's on the court, so it only feels right if that's where we start.
Yeah, I think that's pretty appropriate, right? The past couple of weeks is, the whole question was Tatum going to come back this season or not? And obviously, March 6th, a couple weeks ago against the Dallas Mavericks, he did come back. And I think we can get into the, what we do and don't like about Jayson Tatum and his return so far, because, it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows, but I think that was expected. I mean, listen, this guy's missed almost 300 days of basketball, Rob. He went down in May. Like, this is an injury. When we talk about an Achilles rupture, this is an injury a lot of athletes don't even come back from, let alone in less than a year, right? So I think, anything that we see from Jayson Tatum, I think we have to take with a grain of salt and a little bit of appreciation and the realization of this is going to take a little bit. Right. This is going to take a little bit, right? Having the name Jayson Tatum back is phenomenal, but you're not necessarily getting Jayson Tatum back quite yet, right? And I'm not saying, he's a role player and all this and that, but I definitely think there's been noticeable bumps in the road, which rightfully so. Yeah. Do you want me to kind of dive into the how should we approach this Tatum conversation? Where do you want to take it?
Well, it's tough because there's so many different ways we can.
There is.
The only right way is to go into what we like and what we don't like. Yeah. Because there's both. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows, but it has not been, a gloomy dark sky with a pouring rain. I'll tell you that. Yeah. So what do you like? What do you don't like? We can kind of go rapid fire here, back and forth. I don't know, because there's a lot of stuff I like and there's a lot of stuff I don't like. Not a lot of stuff I don't like, but there are some things that's worth mentioning.
I think the issue is when you start listing the things you don't like, it's the conversation of, dude, give him time. Like, he's coming back from an injury, which rightfully so, that is 100% true. But we can't sit here and act like, he's been perfect since he's returned. He's back to his 30-point per game first team all NBA self. That's just not the case. And that's not going to be the case for quite a while, in my opinion. Not to be negative, but I think, something that doesn't sit quite well with me is 3-point attempts per game is at 10. We're talking after the Minnesota Timberwolves game earlier this week where the Celtics lost. Jayson Tatum is now sitting around 10 3-point attempts per game, and he's only making just above 3 of them. So the inefficiency of his shot and his field goal percentage is primarily from 3-point range. Okay. And you look at it glass half full, you say, oh man, like Jayson Tatum's back and it's going to take a little bit. And, can we call it settling? Are we ready to call it settling? Because when I look at the 3-point attempts from Jayson Tatum and I look at the injury he's coming back from, it tells me that maybe mentally he's not fully there to make the assertion to the basket, to make these explosive moves to the basket. So is it settling, Rob, or is it okay?
No.
Maybe his mental game isn't quite there 100% yet.
It's tough because I don't think any of the play is abnormal. I don't think any
Yeah.
of the shot selection is like, whoa, I didn't used to see that before, right? Because Tatum kind of has always had a little, especially from three.
The one-legged threes that we've seen.
Yeah,
That's a little like, I don't
that's a
know if you
little.
should be doing that.
Yeah. I think we could classify it as like a mild case of settling. If I was a doctor, it's what I'd say a mild case
Yeah.
expected. I think the unfortunate part kind of that plays into the whole Jayson Tatum settling, we'll call it in air quotes for now,
Right.
is I believe Tatum is 100% healthy to be playing basketball, right? But this term rushed him back, again, I'm putting in air quotes,
Yeah.
where I do think Tatum came back before his body reached the level in which it was at pre-injury, right? Because I believe the strength is there. I believe all the tools he needs to be playing NBA basketball. It's all there, right? I'm not scared he's going to get hurt. But I think what we're seeing is like, okay, he didn't have that extra 3 months to take it to the next level and step back on the court and all that explosion be there.
Yeah.
And I think like for me, something I don't like playing off the jump shots is it doesn't look like his like vertically explosive up is there.
Yeah.
And again, it's going to take time to get that. I mean, gosh, I couldn't imagine not playing basketball for 300 days and then stepping back on the floor. But it's like, okay, that's something I've noted is like, okay, it's clearly he's going to have to play a little bit more under the basket for a little bit before he gets that explosion. I think his lateral explosion looks phenomenal. It's very clear that was worked on all throughout the rehab process. But the vertical, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's going to take time is I think some people just, with the snap of a finger think that this is just going to come into fluidity, and that's just not the case. I think there's a lot to be said on Jayson Tatum and, his ultimate decision on coming back. I was listening to John Corrales of the Locked On Celtics podcast, and he was kind of explaining Tatum's return in such a delicate way, and I really like how he put it. It was, I think we'd rather Jayson Tatum come back right now rather than come back next December, next November, where at least right now in the towards the end of the season, he kind of can go into a full off season with, okay, this is what I like to do. This is what I didn't like to do. This is what I could scratch. This is what I could do more of. I think it gives Jayson Tatum a really good, in terms of not only the physical being on the court part, but also the mental capacity of, okay, this is what worked for me. This is what didn't work for me coming off the injury. Maybe I'm able to do this a little bit less than before I was injured. And maybe I'm able to do this a little bit more than when I was, when I came back from my injury. So I think that aspect is really positive for Jayson Tatum. And we still have about 3.5 weeks before the Celtics enter the playoffs. I think that gives Jayson Tatum more than enough time to get those reps in. And maybe his shooting isn't so efficient, but because his shooting hasn't been so efficient, he's been able to kind of focus on other aspects in his game that has clearly improved, and that's rebounding and his playmaking. His playmaking, Rob, has been spectacular since he returned from injury, right. And that's something that I'm really kind of interested to see if, even when Tatum is back at full strength, are we going to continue to see this playmaking, or is this just because Tatum doesn't feel as confident in his shot?
I'll say this, off-season opinion via John Corrales, couldn't agree more. It's going to be a normal off-season, or a little bit more normal would have been if he sat this whole year. And again, I'm going to say it, his body looks like it's ready to be out there, right? I'm not watching this guy and thinking this guy doesn't look like he's supposed to be out there. That's just not the case.
Right.
He's played in 8 games. And I'd say 6 out of those 8, he's looked pretty damn good. And you'd figure coming back from an Achilles injury, there's going to be a handful of games in there that are going to suck. They're going to be rough, and you're going to feel in the mud, and you're going to feel like your feet are dead in the water. And those are just kind of part of coming back from injury. It's like you got to get through those games, right? You got to weather the storm. So to sit here and look at an 8-game sample size and say, okay, 6 of them he looked better than good. In 2 of them he looked worse than good. I mean, personally, I'm pleased with that.
So first, like, people just look at the shooting percentages and instantly think, oh, Tatum should have never came back, and he was rushed, and this was a bad decision, and the Celtics are getting worse from this. like there's so much more that Jayson Tatum brings to this team than just his shooting. And I do think, like, I'm kind of at the point where it's like, are these people just saying whatever comes to mind? Because if you realistically and logistically like look at the situation that Jayson Tatum is coming out of, you would totally understand why Jayson Tatum is shooting 38% from the field and 29% from three. You would absolutely understand. Would you expect this guy to join the 60, 80, 90 club or whatever the club is? Like,
you know what? I saw a tweet the other day. I forget who put it out there, but it was Jayson Tatum. It might be the only player in NBA history that's not allowed to look rough after missing 300 days of basketball.
It's ridiculous.
It's like, yeah, kind of. Like that's the standard, it feels like.
Well, I was doing a little research on NBA stars that have notably come back from Achilles injury: Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant, DeMarcus Cousins, Klay Thompson. Like, Jayson Tatum, besides his 3-point percentage, which Kobe shot 18% from three on his first 6 games back, besides that 3-point percentage, Jayson Tatum's right around average of where these other NBA stars were in his first 6 games. In the high 30s shooting percentage, in the 80s and 90s in free throw percentage, and he's now in the dip down into the high 20s 3-point percentage. Is it great? No, but why weren't we talking like this when other players came back from injury? And not only that, Celtics are 6 in their first 8 games. Jayson Tatum, the Celtics are 6-2. Celtics are winning basketball. Besides, obviously, Minnesota a couple nights ago, Celtics are winning their basketball games with Tatum on the court, whether Tatum's shooting 40% or whether Tatum's shooting 12%. Celtics are winning their basketball games. He's got, like, Rob, come on, right? Like, Celtics fans, come on. Like, we really expect this guy to be shooting 50% from three. He wasn't even doing that when he was healthy. No. I do think Jayson Tatum needs to, like, it's like, oh, see, like, this is where it's hard, because it's like, oh, Tatum needs to facilitate more. He needs to penetrate more. He needs to get into the paint. It's like, yes, he does. But when you think about the capacity of the injury that he's coming off of, it's like, I could see why he's hesitant to do that at first. You saw that in the Minnesota game. He settled for threes in the first half, comes out, first play out of halftime, got to the basket, and the whole game opened up for him. Just that little bit of confidence opened up for him.
Well, I think where Celtics fans should be at, and even Jayson Tatum and the Boston Celtics organization themselves, is they're giving Jayson Tatum 20 games. It's almost like a preseason.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, you're going to get your NBA legs back, and then the playoffs are going to start, and then the expectations are going to be there. If in 20 games or in 12 games from now, we're still seeing Jayson Tatum to be a little bit hesitant, I'm going to be like, okay, like, come on, it's almost like when you're trying to learn to swim. And sometimes I remember myself, actually, the story how I learned how to swim is I got pushed into the pool. I was too scared to jump into the pool, and I was doing all the practice. And sometimes I got thrown into the pool. I popped up.
This last week in Miami, by the way.
Yeah, it's actually a week ago. And sometimes you just got to get thrown into the water. And it's like his body's so clearly, he had every benchmark. I saw the report that he was always 2 weeks ahead of schedule. This guy's body is ready to be out there for NBA basketball. You're 100% right. It's just about getting comfortable again. It's about getting acclimated. I will say, recently, it's been a lot of Jayson Tatum standing in the corner. A lot of it.
I was just going to ask you about his usage rate.
First half last night.
What's his usage rate? It's got to be in the 30s.
It was 29-8 entering the Sunday game against Memphis. I can get you right now an updated number for you right now. His updated usage rate this season is still sitting at 30.1.
So it's interesting because, again, like, see, because you can go.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that was a lie. I'm sorry. It's 25.7. So let me preface this. In 2022-23, the season he scored 30, he was at a 30% usage, or excuse me, 32.6. Last year, he was at a 29.5. The championship year, he's at 30. This year, he's at 25.7. So a clear drop.
Clearly, I don't know what usage rate was when I said he's only in the 30s. I think I thought it was a lot less. I don't know what I was thinking, but so that argument about the usage rate, it's like the same people who are upset about Jayson Tatum shooting percentages are the same people complaining about how he's not getting used enough.
Yeah.
And so I understand the Celtics aren't going to play through Jayson Tatum in his first 8 games back. Like, that's just not the reality, especially Jayson Tatum on the minute restriction. Each game he's starting to play a little bit more minutes, but it's hard to play through somebody when they're fresh off an Achilles injury and he's on a minute restriction. But Jayson Tatum's sitting in the right corner quite a lot, which, first of all, I've been on the, Rob, I've been on the shooting charts. He is not favored on that right side. He's a left center player. So he's been sitting in the right corner. He's just kind of out of it. And I don't know if that's a coaching thing. I don't know if that's a Jayson Tatum just trying to stay out of people's way thing. And try not to mess up what's already happening. But when you're 1/5 of the player, one of the players on the court, it's like, okay, things have clearly changed regardless of you being in the play or not. Like, Jayson Tatum is still on the court, and the play style's changed. So I'm going to be interested to see if down the stretch Jayson Tatum is used a little bit more heavily than he's been used. And it's like I said this in the beginning of the podcast episode, when we're talking about Jayson Tatum, the goods and the bads, you have to take every literal detail with a grain of salt. Because, again, his first 8 games back, coming off an Achilles injury, has not played basketball in 300 days. I'm not so sure we'll be giving Jayson Tatum these same excuses come October and November when he's had an offseason, a training camp, and a preseason. But as of right now in March, 2.5 weeks after he's returned after 300 days, yes, he absolutely can get these excuses. And yes, he absolutely can have 38, 29, and 84 shooting splits coming off of an Achilles injury. Like, cut the crap, folks. I think we have to kind of jump into reality. I think we have to put everything aside for right now and just realize, the reality of the situation is Jayson Tatum's coming off of a ruptured Achilles.
Right. And I think, to go back to your point on the standing in the corner, the unfortunate situation, I think the Boston Celtics, and I don't think this is a real problem, but I do think there's a learning curve that they're going to have to get over. And honestly, they're going to have to get over it pretty quick. They went 60 games, 62 games, or 61 games. Tatum came back on the 62nd game. They went 61 games of really, in the grand scheme of things, having one mouth to feed, right? Jaylen Brown was the conductor. You had one mouth, and that's all you needed. It's an adjustment to look at it and be like, oh, there's a second mouth that the ball needs to be in his hands, right? Like, part of being a role player in the NBA is knowing, okay, when you're on the Celtics, number 7, right? That's our best guy, right? The ball needs to go to him a certain amount of times, just because when the ball's in his hands, we're at the best position to succeed. It's never going to be a negative when you have a second guy like that on the court. Let me preface that. But I think what the Celtics need to try to relearn the habit of is understanding, okay, Tatum can't be in the corner. Like, this is another mouth that needs to be fed, because when he's being fed, the team, it's like coal in a fire with a train. You want to feed that, right? Because the train goes faster the more you're feeding that coal into the fire, and more guys get involved. And I don't think it's going to be a trouble, because we've seen 7-0 operate for a long time now. I'm not going to entertain that conversation. But I will say, I think it's harder for the other guys, right? For the Shiremans, for the Ugos, for the Garzas, for the Pritchards to reacclimate their brain into playing with another Jaylen Brown, because that's what's happening right now. And it's also important for Tatum to get that again, because the faster Tatum can get the more reps, the more repetition, the more normalcy within the play of the Celtics, the quicker you'll get number 0 back to what he was.
Can I also remind people that the last time Jayson Tatum was on the basketball court, he was playing with guys like Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, Luke Cornett. Yeah. And now Jayson Tatum's being thrusted into lineups with Ugo Gonzalez, Luka Garza, like guys he's never even played with, he's barely even practiced with. Like, that's a big adjustment for not only Jayson Tatum, but the players with him. Remember in the beginning of the season, and when we started 0-3, we started 5-7. Like, it's not that we suck, but remember, like, a lot of these guys are new, and a lot of these guys haven't played with each other on the court. Like, it's like, it takes time. It's going to take time to gel. You're adding Jayson Tatum back, not only fresh off an injury, but like this is his first reps of the season with this team. And I kind of, when I see Garza and Tatum, play the little 2-man game, I think it's cool because like these guys have never played together before. So, it's not only going to take Tatum time, but it's going to take time for the guys around him to adjust. And
100%.
does that, Rob, I kind of wonder, like, Jordan Walsh has fallen out of the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it Tatum? Is it because Tatum's back? I thought, like, it's Tate, like, that. Then the conversation's like, oh, well, Tatum's taking away the opportunity of other guys. But then it's like Jordan Walsh was out of the rotation before Tatum came back.
Well, yeah, I'll say this. If it's ever between Jordan Walsh or Jayson Tatum, and a gun's pointed to my head, I'm taking Jayson Tatum 101 times out of the 5 necessary times I need to pick Jayson Tatum. So let's just get that straight. But you raise a good question. I mean, that kind of takes me to where I wanted to bring this thing, right? Which is the bench guys, right? Because this development, this has been real. This was a throwaway season proclaimed by a lot of people, right? And you have a roster, and I'll be the first one to say this, Justin, and maybe you'll disagree with me here, but on paper, this isn't a good roster. Like, you came into the season and you look at what you had, and you had Jaylen Brown, you had Derek White, you had Peyton Pritchard, you had Simons, and the rest were kind of nobodies, unproven guys. Nemias Queta, Luka Garza, Baylor Shireman. You had Sam Hauser, who was kind of like up in the air where you didn't know what you're going to get. You had all these guys, right? You had a group of question marks.
Yeah.
And these question marks have turned into explanation points real fast. They have been worth talking about, Justin. And I think it's worth now that we do talk about them. And you raise a good point with Shireman, because you look at the other rotation, and you're going to have to start thinking about playoff rotation. Shireman fell out. But from a bench standpoint and an other guy's standpoint, where else do you who do you scrap? Because you see all these guys, and it's tough to even say you're Shireman. Shireman's probably the most like hit or miss guy on the team with me right now, where I love his energy, but something about him is just not there all the time.
So this Celtics team, it's been quite a while. I'm trying to think before I say this. Maybe since the 2017, 2018 season, when we had guys like Shane Larkin and Yabu and Ojale step up and Greg Monroe.
Shout out Greg Monroe, yeah.
Like, this might be the deepest Celtics team that we've had in quite a while.
I'd go out there and agree with you. There's about 12 guys you can look at, and you're comfortable with them on the floor.
Man, like,
let's go down the list, right? Because you have the Tatum, Brown, White, Pritchard. That's 4. Nemi's 5. Mm-hmm. Then you got Hauser, Garza, Vooch, make it 8. Yeah. Ugo, Shireman is 10. And then I think like the 2 question marks would be Walsh and Harper.
And you've played those guys, and like I gotta give credit to Amari. Like, Amari started in a couple games this year. He came up big against Brooklyn, and earlier in the season against Cleveland. Like, started against Portland, and like, this is the most production I feel like we've gotten from everybody in quite a while. And I think that can attest to the level of opportunity that has been there since the very beginning. Like,
you know what I think
Tatum
it boils
being
down
out.
to?
What was that?
You know what I think it boils down to?
What?
Like, quite frankly, because I agree, this is the most comfortable and deepest I felt this team has been in 8 years, since probably the Tatum and Brown era. I'll say that. I think it boils down to hustle, straight up. Because the last year in particular, we would lose to teams like the Atlanta Hawks, for example, right? They'd come in, they had a group of these 6'8" plus wings who just hustled. Like, they would go up there, Richesay, Jalen Johnson, the list goes on and on, right? Just forwards that hustle. You look at this year, Walsh, Ugo, Shireman, list goes on and on. Just these bigger forwards, Harper's another one, who just come into the game and they just make hustle plays. And sometimes in the NBA, that's all it comes down to.
Yeah.
Can you hustle?
So this team has like, especially these young guys, like, they had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Like, when we talk about gap year, I remember, I forget, I tried looking for the comment. I think, I don't know if it was on Jalen's Instagram or Ant. Like, everybody was talking about gap year. I said it's a prove it year. Like, it's a prove it year for a lot of guys. And I remember saying that in training camp. Like, there's a lot of guys on this roster who are more than capable of excelling in their roles, and it's a prove it. Can I do this? Can we do this? And I think the Celtics have overachieved, and I also think the Celtics have proved to a lot of people that they can. And some guys went in with a chip on their shoulder, and some guys went in knowing that their opportunities were going to be much larger than years prior. Neemias Queta is Exhibit A. And you can even throw in guys like Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh, who have been exceptional in their starting roles at times this year. I mean, Baylor Shireman was starting at our point guard for a few weeks when Ant was traded, and he was terrific. And Jordan Walsh is 15-5 when he's in the starting lineup this year for the Celtics. And you've even had Ron Harper Jr. So, like you said, the list goes on. And I'm standing by, like, this is the most productive team that you've had in quite a while now. I understand we haven't been to a playoff series yet with this team. The Celtics could get bounced in the first round, God forbid. But as far as what we've seen here in the first 72 games, this is easily the most productive team, top to bottom, that we've got. Rob, we have our two-way guys starting in games and locking up Kevin Durant and locking up Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah.
Like, that's that's the real deal.
And I think the craziest thing about it is I haven't been able to wrap my head around how, right? A lot of credit goes to Joe Mazzulla, and we're going to dive into that next. I know. Oh my God, I know. That's like the public shaming. I should be shamed for it. But the couple key points I wrote down that I really wanted to call out with this bench crew this year, really in total, and in the past week, because again, we are trying to look at this through the past week lens, but I mean, the bench unit this year has not been blowing leads. When they check in and they're up by 15, that lead's never dwindling. We saw that so many times last year, where you come in, you're up by 15, Tatum goes off the floor, Brown's off the floor, all of a sudden it's a 3-point game. You're not seeing that. I think consistency within the shooting behind the arc has been phenomenal. You're always getting one or two guys off the bench. It's been Garza the other night. It's been Hauser. It's been Shireman. It's been Ugo. There's always a scoring spark. Pritchard, shout out to Pritchard. He's been huge as of late. There's always been a scoring spark. And then lastly, I mentioned a little bit earlier with the hustling, but the defensive intensity, Justin, has just been ridiculous with some of these guys. Again, Ugo, Walsh, Shireman, even Ron Harper Jr., who I've absolutely loved, and I hope he gets a standard deal with us. Just the simple things that you'd think every NBA player comes into the year knowing they need to do these things, but it shows you how far it can go when a team, you have a group of individuals, a group of guys that come together as a team and do things like this nightly. When your best player's out, it doesn't matter. Your second best player's out, it doesn't matter. As long as you're doing these simple things, I think Joe Mazzulla has instilled into these guys to be a nightly habit. I mean, you get the Boston Celtics, who have been a just scrappy top 5 team essentially for 8 or 70 games now.
Yeah. Something that set the tone for the Celtics in which I think is carried over later here into the season to these young guys, to these bench guys who haven't had much opportunity before this year. Remember how tough Joe Mazzulla was on those guys in the beginning of the season and in the preseason?
If they weren't a rebound, ass to the bench. He was hard.
I mean, it's like, no, you didn't rebound. All right. He didn't rebound. Okay, you're with him. Like,
lineups, 5 in, 5 out. You guys are sucking. I'm putting fresh 5. I mean, it was rough.
And you know what? And that now the Celtics are one of the best rebounding teams in the association. Like, games later, like, yeah. And I think so. It's like those bench guys, those young guys, like I said earlier, like they had nothing to lose and they had everything to gain from that experience, and they're going to continue to thrive on it. And we talk about the no Tatum and Brown minutes last year. Even when we had guys like Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, and Al Horford, and like it was like we dreaded those minutes, Rob. Like that was a serious problem with this team during that year. It's like, oh man, like when Tatum goes out, it's rough. it's rough. And now even when Tatum and Brown both hit the bench, we're having guys like Hugo Gonzalez hit corner threes, which he's not known for his shooting. We have guys like Peyton Pritchard who can control the game, and Baylor Shireman with his playmaking, and Luka Garza with his offensive rebounding and rim protecting. It's like I'm blown away that like nothing surprises me anymore with this team. There was a few games it's like, okay, this is a really good stretch from the Celtics team, and it turned out to be one long stretch where the Celtics have that's just who they are, and
Yep.
and that's what this team is, and who these guys continue to be. And it probably makes it really hard on Joe Mazzulla when you have to cut your rotation down come the final month of the regular season, where, okay, now we're starting to prep for the playoffs, because usually you see rotation slim down to 7 or 8 guys. And this is a team that on any given night can easily stretch it out to 10 or 11 guys.
I'll say this. It comes down to coachability. And I'm not just going to sit here and say last year that team was uncoachable, because I don't think that was the case, right? But it's been well documented that team had a little bit of an ignorance to them. They're coming off a championship, one of the most dominant seasons in NBA history, right? That team was that good. I think it's tougher to get a Drew Holiday type up and hustling on a cold Wednesday night in February against the Toronto Raptors than it is to get a Hugo Gonzalez unproven 19-year-old up and hustling. And we talk about habits, right? You play the 82 games to develop the good habits to get you through the real season, which is the postseason. And I think that's what we're seeing. These guys, they're young, they're unproven, they're going to listen to their coach. Joe's been great. I want to ask you a question that really boils down to this bench unit, because for as good as they've been, again, there's nothing like the playoffs. Do you think this bench unit's good enough for a deep playoff run? I think that's the only thing that hasn't been answered yet, and it's hearsay. We don't know. It's really just shot in the dark here until the playoffs show up. But are they good enough for it?
I think, regular season and playoffs are just a totally different ball game, right? And there's a lot of guys on this bench who aren't as experienced in the playoffs. So we have to wait and see, because we've seen so many really good teams not only exceed expectations, Rob, but like once they get to the playoffs, a lot of it is experience. And if you're not too experienced and you get down in a series, it's tough to come back. What I will say is, like, it would not shock me if the Celtics are good enough. And it would not shock me if the Celtics were even more better off than what we think they might be, like overachieving in the playoffs. I'm not saying this Celtics team is, they're done in the first round, but I circle back to my point about being experienced. There's a lot of guys on this team who they've been to the playoffs, but they haven't had a big role in the playoffs in a regular playoff rotation. Everybody outside of maybe Tatum, Brown, White, and maybe Pritchard, maybe Hauser, has not had a big role in the playoffs. You can even say Vucevic, 35 years old, only been to the playoffs a couple times in his career. That's the main reason why he wanted out of Chicago. I
don't even think Vooch has been out of the first round.
Game 7 against Boston, his rookie year, against Philly. Was that a first-round series? We were young.
He was, yes, 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, second. Yeah.
So, but I mean, again, so I think these guys will excel in that moment. Like, they live for that moment. These young guys live for that moment, and there is not a single. I think Joe's ramping them up for that too. Like, the other night in Memphis. So, like, Joe's been, first of all, when it gets crunch time, Joe's been going with the lineups. Like, the other night in Memphis, I understand, it's Memphis. You're not going to see them in the playoffs. They were undermanned. I understand that, but it comes down to reps. And a close game is a close game. And how they handle things in a close game is, very, very important. Joe didn't put Tatum and Brown on the court for quite a while in that fourth quarter. Celtics were down by 7 in that fourth quarter against Memphis last week, 98-91. Joe left that lineup in of Derek White, Baylor Shireman, Luka Garza. Let them figure it out, and they figured it out. And I think that's what it's going to come down to is are they going to be able to take the punches and roll with the runs? And they're gonna make a run in the play. Like I look at New York, man, and Detroit, like these teams we're about to face in the playoffs. Do the Celtics have the physicality? Do the Celtics have the will? And I do think that the Celtics can match up with anybody in the Eastern Conference, and I think they can match up with anybody in the Western Conference. And I think maybe on paper we don't have the prettiest of rosters in terms of like, star caliber players up and down the roster, but that to me almost makes this team even more dangerous, in my opinion, come playoff time.
I tend to agree with you. I think the one thing that's going to hold this team back is the hero ball. I think we've seen it recently, a lot of hero ball, and you don't need to do that. This is a team that has in the turn. Yeah, and I think that is a product of the hero ball mentality. Is figuring, and again, they're going to figure that out. But again, you'll have to wait and see with the bench unit because you don't know. I think Vucevic off the bench and Pritchard off the bench is going to come up big for you. Hauser as well. Those are three guys you can lean on that have experience, at least for the most part, in NBA basketball. Shireman and Ugo, you're really rolling the dice with. Again, you rolled the dice with them this year. They answered it, right? So there's a great chance they come into the playoffs and they're ready for it. But again, the playoffs is just a different level of intensity, and I think they'll match it. It's just, again, the game changes. It feels a little bit different. It speeds up and slows down. It speeds up for most and slows down for some. And when it slows down for you in the playoffs is really, really when you understand it, right? That's like the guys like Luka and Tatum and Jokic and those guys. So there's not a lot of them. It'll be interesting to see. I do also want to harp in on here and talk about when you're looking at this season and you're looking at the success of this season, where exactly are we pointing the finger at if the majority of you get the credit? And I hate saying it like that because, again, we were on the phone the other day and you made a great point, and I'm sure you're going to say it again when you go down the ladder. But there's got to be one guy that is just okay, you get a little bit more credit than everyone else.
Yeah, God. The Lord above is the one who gets the main credit. Are you kidding me? How could I pick? Because I think it just goes so far. Nobody just gets, Rob. No, there's no one person that gets credit.
And this might be crazy, but I've seen a lot of people who are Brad Stevens assembled this team, and Brad Stevens is a genius. All true. Brad Stevens did assemble this team, and Brad Stevens is a genius. But Brad Stevens' success within this team that he's constructed was not via basketball talent, right? It wasn't like he put a 2024 offseason where he moved Smart for Porzingis and then moved Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon, both injured and hobbled on one leg, for a Drew Holiday who was so he didn't make chess moves to win basketball games. And I full-heartedly believe that. Brad Stevens made chess moves to put Boston in a phenomenal financial situation and save them from purgatory.
I think he put the Celtics in position to win financially and win on the court. I do.
I think Joe Mazzulla is, which is crazy I'm saying this, but the Joe Mazzulla is the one you point at.
See, why is it crazy that you're saying this?
Where
is this thing with Joe Mazzulla? He comes in 2 weeks off the preseason as a head coach, takes us to Game 7 of the conference finals. Following year, wins us an NBA title.
Because
we drop it all back to back. Where is it? He's got almost 300 wins, and he hasn't even reached 100 losses yet.
Right. But you cannot lie. Last season, especially that New York Knicks playoff series, right? When his bad leaked, it was really, really, really ugly. And I will say, and I said this before the beginning of the season, it was a big test year for Mazzulla, right? Because he didn't have all this talent to lean on that he had, and he'd admit it, right? His first year in the league, sometimes you just got to lean on your talent. It's no knock on him. It was a test year, and he absolutely shut myself up. He shut me up. But there were times, and you can't disagree, where the Joe Mazzulla ugly was so ugly.
How many 20-point leads could the Celtics blow in the fourth quarter? How is that always on Mazzulla? How is that always?
I'm not saying it was only just on Mazzulla.
Timeout is not. No, I know that, but it's like you say last year in the New York series. It's Celtics just You blow 20-point leads in the fourth quarter. I'm not sitting there saying the
But
coach is taking those
this is my
shots
thing.
and turning the ball over. And
Last year in those playoffs, and I hate to talk about last year so much, but from a schematically, right? Schematically, you look at what the Celtics are doing right now, and it looks pretty. There's action, there's cutting, they're crashing the glass, they're getting back on defense. It's a well sought out game plan almost every night. And you look at that and you think, coaching, right? These guys came in prepared. These are well coached players, right? They're not giving up leads. Their shot selection is good. There's a lot of motion on the offensive end. They're communicating and switching on defense. So there's like basic like coaching things. The playoffs last year, the only action in the offense was a high screen and roll, right? They were giving up leads. They were like, that is not in totality coaching, but there's some coaching factors there. And again, so I came into this year skeptical, extremely skeptical. Can he rally a group of not a lot of talent, untalented group? I hate to say it like that, but that's what the narrative was with this team before the season started. And he did. So that's what I'm saying where it's crazy, because I would have never mentally thought Joe Mazzulla was going to be able to have these guys playing this good and to look so good doing it. And I put my hand up and I admit it. I was wrong about Luke Cornett. I'm wrong about Joe Mazzulla. Like, I think that's okay.
Luke. So, hold on. I don't understand the trajectory here of this whole Mazzulla thing, because if this team is as talentless as you thought they were, as a lot of people thought they were, coming into the season, why would Joe Mazzulla be in the hot seat if this season didn't go that great?
Well, no, I say hot seat, but it was a prove-it year. And I'll say this. I was on record this offseason. I did not think this was going to be a terrible team. I put these guys right around the 4, 5, 6 seed. I thought they were going to come in right around a high 40-win team, like 45, like 46, mid-40s.
I never, and you know, some people, oh, you're a Celtics fan, you'll never say that. I never thought this team was going to be a lottery team. Are you kidding me? Like,
there were signs at the start of the year.
Huh?
There were some warning signs that I called out at the start of the year.
There was never any sign to me that signified this team was headed towards the lottery. And I said that. I just love it.
You did not think they were going to be this good.
I thought the Celtics should be a top 4 team in the East. I did. I'm pretty
sure.
But
this isn't just a top 4 team in the East. This is the favorite to come out of the East. There's levels to that.
There is levels to that. I thought this team would be a top 4 in the Eastern Conference, probably around the 4 spot, if I'm being honest with you. Did I think they'd be in the lottery? No, absolutely not. Was I rooting for them to be in the lottery? Here's the thing. I said this the other day. If I will never, ever root for losing. Ever will I ever root for losing. No, never root for losing. But to get back on the whole kind of, you know, who we pointing the finger at, like I do. I think I have 10 fingers and I have 10 toes. I'm going to point every single finger and every single toe at any person I see in the realm, because I think it's a conjointed effort. Brad Stevens got the Celtics financially in a phenomenal spot to make moves. Celtics were able to explore the buyout market and free agency, and Celtics were able to take on salary, and the Celtics were able to shed salary. Like, there's so many things that will probably, like, how do I put this? Like, no way did I think we'd be in the financial position that we're in right now if you and I were sitting here last year. Like, at this time last year, no way would I say Brad Stevens shed all this salary and still we're second in the conference, 4.5 games out of first place in the Eastern Conference. Like, no way. That just didn't seem possible. And then you look at Joe Mazzulla. You take your eyes off Brad Stevens, and you put your eyes on Mazzulla and what Mazzulla's been able to do since day one with this group. And then you look at the players. Like, the players have been able to buy into what Joe Mazzulla was preaching in the preseason and the early days of the regular season. And, like, there's so much untapped potential on this team, and nothing to lose and everything to gain. And, like, the list goes on and on and on. And credit to Tatum for continuing to put that work in. He bought in to the process. He bought into the rehab. And that's why he's able to play basketball here in March and ramp up for the playoffs. And Jaylen Brown, and Rob, the list goes on and on. I'm going to have to start giving credit to the podcasters out in the Celtics world. Like,
well, I'll say this. Out of everyone down throughout the Celtics organization, the one player or person I'm least surprised by this season is Jaylen Brown. And I think I knew this guy. I knew he was, I'll say that I knew Jaylen Brown could take his game to this level. Like, let's not act like Jaylen Brown, and it's so funny because statistically his numbers are up, but really what he's doing is, if you're a Celtics fan and you watch Celtics basketball every night, it's Jaylen Brown. It's exactly the same Jaylen Brown we've seen before. It's just a higher volume. Like, that's the thing where it's everyone's like, oh, hold on, here comes Jaylen Brown this season out of nowhere. It's like, have you not been watching Celtics basketball for the past like 6 years since he's really taken that jump? It's like, no, Jaylen Brown has been this dude. He's been that guy. And now it's just he's the only guy to look at here. And I think for me, it's like, okay, like I knew Jaylen Brown was this good. Like I just did. I knew he could elevate his game. Maybe not to MVP levels. Maybe that surprised me where it's like, okay, this is potentially top, 3 MVP candidate. I didn't know he could take it that far, but in terms of like top 5 on any given night, like I knew Jaylen Brown was that good, and he deserves every ounce of credit in flowers you could give him because he's just been phenomenal. I mean, he's been absolutely phenomenal.
Jaylen Brown was excited for this season to be underway. By the way, this guy's coming off a torn meniscus injury as well, and there was question on. Good. There was question on how he was going to look and if he was even going to play to start the season and how is he going to look to, throughout the season. He looks about as healthy as he's ever looked. And everything that has been a weakness in his game has significantly improved. His ball handling has improved. His finishing has improved. His free throw shooting has improved. Like he's getting to the line. He's drawing contact. His mid-range game is unlike anything I've seen. It maybe not Brandon Bass level mid-range work, but it is terrific. With you're either seeing dunks or you're seeing 3-pointers. There's no really in between game, and you're seeing that with Jaylen Brown. You're seeing that free throw line, high extended elbow jumper fall for Jaylen Brown. He's getting others involved. He's rebounding. He's the defensive. He's like, this guy's going for MVP in an all defensive team. Like that is insane. Usually we're talking about MVP. We're talking about his offense and his shooting numbers. Like with Jaylen Brown, we're talking about his mid range game and we're talking about him on the defensive end, right? So there's levels to Jaylen Brown and how he's been able to take this team. I think it's extra impressive about how Jaylen Brown has taken this leadership role, and he's been a leader on this team for quite a while vocally, but in terms of having the reins and having the ball in his hands as the number one option, he's kind of working, and this is so offensive because like how good these guys have been, but like he's making something out of, do I want to say nothing? Do I want to say nothing? How can I say nothing when I thought the team would be a 4 seed? Right. Like compared to what we've had, like I'd say he's making something out of less. Like out of what we've had in previous years, like he's working with less and he's making it more. And he's bringing out the best in everybody. And I love what Jaylen Brown has been able to do throughout the season. And I totally agree. Like if you're probably going to single out a single player, at least in terms of the players, it's definitely Jaylen Brown and how he's been able off a torn meniscus, off of a lot of noise in the offseason, constantly trying to rip Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum apart, like constantly trying to rip Jaylen Brown down. Like kudos to JB and obviously, I just can't say enough about Jaylen Brown, Rob. Like he loves the city loves him. He's getting more and more respect from the city as the years go on. By the way, became a Twitch streamer and like many like dude, the conversation was okay, coming off a torn meniscus, how's he gonna be? It's like, okay, he looks good. And then he starts getting into the streaming and it's like, oh my gosh, like here we go, like distraction, like podcast Paul George, like he's gonna be talking more on stream. It's like this guy's streaming coming off a torn meniscus and he's like one of the leaders for MVP. Like that is that is ridiculous. This guy goes from having like a 40-point game to 2 hours later he's streaming showing game film and like breaking down the game. And I think it's incredible. And I love it. Jaylen Brown is enjoying every part of this season that he could possibly enjoy. And it was a prove-it year for him as well, right? Like Jayson Tatum goes down and we we talk about the bench players and Joe Mazzulla and Brad Stevens as a GM and all this and that, but like Jaylen Brown also, like, it's a prove it year for you. Like, you are going to have the reins. Jayson Tatum is not coming back, at least for a very long time. How are you going to handle that?
Yeah.
He's handled this team quite well. Second seed, 47 wins.
Yeah, he's been nothing shy of amazing, honestly, this year. He's just phenomenal. And kind of brings us to our last talking point here. And again, this is something that we're going to talk about a lot, and we're going to be a broken record about it. But Monday, March 23rd, it's 8:04 p.m., right? Do you think the Boston Celtics are the favorites out of the Eastern Conference?
I hate you, dude. I'll
be the first to say it. I think we are, currently speaking. Because, and I'll say this, past week or so, they're starting to, scare me a little bit. Nothing crazy, but like, starting to be like, okay, like, hold on, like, is this team gonna hit a road bump here right before the playoffs start? Excuse me. But I mean, to give you the short version, really, because I could talk about this for 4 hours. You look around the East, Tatum and Brown, if you get Tatum back, like we think we're going to get him back for the playoffs, no one's really got two guys that to that level that have been there before. And then I think the bench and the other guys are so strong from a contribution standpoint that in 7 games, it's going to be a really tough team to beat. You got to come into TD Garden unless you're Detroit 4 times in 7 games. It's going to be tough. The pool of teams I really look at: Knicks, Cleveland, maybe Orlando. Like they picked it up a little bit.
Whoa. Pool of teams you look at for what?
To really compete with these guys.
Oh, okay. Detroit's not in there?
Well, I mean, you don't know with Cade. With no Cade Cunningham, if you're dealt a bad hand. With Cade, then you got to look at what Detroit's done this year, and you got to give them their credit. But the harsh reality is you got no Cade. If you can get Cade back for round 2, then I think they got a real chance at doing it. But that collapsed lung, speedy recovery goes.
Let me tweak the question a little bit.
Yeah,
who's Boston's biggest threat in the East?
It's tough because I look at the East and it's a bunch of teams that are in the exact same category for me. There is no team that stands out. And I'm like, and I think there's an argument that you can even throw Boston in that category, right? Where it's like, maybe they're just a team where it's like, they're kind of just on up to par with the Knicks and up to par with Cleveland. It's like New York, they should have done it last year. They didn't. Why? Because they're the Knicks. And like, that's the tough reality. It's like, they always New York Knick out. And Cleveland, it's like Cleveland's a team now, 3 years since they've gotten Donovan Mitchell. And every year they're right in the mix, but some injury derails their year, or some second guy drops and fumbles the ball. Last year, Garland couldn't stay healthy and Mobley couldn't stay healthy. The year before, Mitchell couldn't stay healthy. This year, you got James Harden dealing with his hand. So it's like, there's Cleveland. It's like, okay, so then let's go down the list. Orlando. It's like, then we're really like throwing shots in the dark here with you just don't know. So it's like, I think the short answer is the Eastern Conference is a bunch of teams that are just in the exact same category. There's like 4 teams I'd categorize all in the same thing. And I think the Celtics are the most reliable source out of those, just that cluster of teams.
I'll just flat out say it. I think it's New York. I really do. I think it's New York. And I also think New York's a team to beat in the East.
Ooh.
I think New York's a team to beat in the East. That doesn't mean I think they're the best. I do. I think New York.
From a Boston POV, like they're the team because they knocked us off last year. I'll give you that. But like, if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, New York's the team to beat.
Yeah, I think you got to get through New York.
Ooh, interesting.
I do. Again, man, like, it's not that I'm doubting this Celtics team at all. Like, I'm trying to be realistic here. Like, we have not seen what this Celtics team could do in the playoffs. Like, playoffs are a whole nother thing, man. Like, whole other thing. Like, the intensity, the defensive pressure, like the shot making, like the there's levels to it. The crowds, the atmospheres, like there's levels to it. And I'm not saying that we're not. Damn, dude, because I don't want to make it sound like I don't believe in this team at all. But like, I do think the biggest threat to Boston is New York. I think another team. Like, this is the all-in Knicks we're talking about. Like, Mike Brown's supposed to... They fired Tibbs for Mike Brown. Like, Tibbs took him to the conference finals. Tibbs was the most successful New York Knicks coach since probably Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson was, like, I think it's New York, Rob. I think it's New York. And I think,
here's my thing. The thing with the New York, last year, the Knicks didn't beat us. We beat us, like, straight up. And I know they did beat us, but, again, at the end of the day, they beat us. Again, I said it 3 times now. But, like, Boston was up by 25 both times in game 1 and 2, and they just let that lead dwindle away. Clutch shot making by New York, and they had the guts to go in there on the road and make that comeback push. They could have folded, they didn't. But let's be honest here. If Boston doesn't completely, excuse my language, shit the bed, Boston advances and plays the Indiana Pacers. Now, we probably don't get past Indiana. That's a conversation that's not even worth talking about. But, like, that's where it's like, I see your point, but it's the Knicks. They're gonna nick. They're just gonna pull a Knicks. It's just who they are. It's just who they are.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think New York is Boston's biggest threat when I look at the Eastern Conference and I'm looking at teams up and down where it's like, okay, I'd probably feel more confident saying we'd win in a 7-game series to Cleveland, which is, I don't find Cleveland as big of a threat as New York. I don't. Maybe that comment will come and bite me in my rear. But, like, this New York team was built to beat the team that they beat last year, and they make a couple moves. At the deadline, they pick up Shohan and they pick up who they just pick up GTA, and these are the teams, and Kolik's playing out of his mind for them, and Clarkson as well, and the obviously Jalen Brunson, and like the list goes on with New York. Like I think New York is definitely the team that I would not like to see the Celtics face.
I think the only thing with New York is just, can they defend? You just, like, you got Brunson, you got Cat, you got Kolik, you got Clarkson. It's a lot of offense. I think the question when its game slows down for them in April and May, that's the only thing that they need to answer. Because I do agree that Knicks on paper are a team that should be threatened, but
also, like, you look at some teams that are more towards the lower seeds, they could be a first round matchup for the Celtics, like Orlando fully healthy. Like, Orlando has not been able to be fully healthy. A fully healthy Orlando team is easily a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference for me. Like, yeah. They have not been able to stay healthy at all. This is a team that was supposed to be clearly in high and above one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference this year, especially over the Celtics. Another team I look at, Philly. What is going, like?
Okay, yeah.
No. Like, I'm not worried about Philly, but I'm just saying, like, Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, like, those guys when they're healthy, and, like, that's a tough first-round matchup to go up against. I think the Celtics beat them. But, like, I'm looking at these teams who, if they were healthy, very much so could be turned around in the standings a little bit and not be dipping in that, 7, 8, 9, 10 spot. So right. I think it's interesting. I think there's teams that could put up a good fight against the Celtics. But I'm going to sit here and I'm going to be 110% truthful. They are the last team that beat us. They are the last team that made it to the conference finals. Obviously, Indiana's already eliminated from playoff contention. So New York, in my mind, is the team to beat. That is just how I view it. They are the last team to beat the Celtics in a playoff series. They are the last team in the Eastern Conference that's eligible for the playoffs this year that have made it the closest to the NBA Finals. It's New York for me. That's the team that the Celtics got to take down. That's the team the Celtics got to get by. And I guess metaphorically and literally, because if the standings hold true, the Celtics are going to have to get past New York in the second round. So that's true. Just the truth. That's just how I view it. And, you can say what you want. Maybe that's a hot take for Celtics fans out there. That doesn't mean I think the Knicks are going to take us in a 7-game series. But in my mind, that is the team to beat in the Eastern Conference.
Well, it's a conversation that we're going to be having a lot here as the Celtics gear up for the playoff.
Who's your team to beat? The Celtics?
I don't have one. I don't think there is one.
What? And you have 15 damn Eastern Conference teams. Pick one.
So Boston, but narrowly.
Okay.
because there is, I see your philosophy, but there's also no team to come out of the East that's in like last year. The Pacers are at the bottom of the standings, so
That's
I
what I'm
think
saying.
yeah, I do believe it's just I think they're all in the same tier. I think Boston is slightly better than them in that tier. And the thing that holds me back from the New York Knicks, maybe this is lazy of me, but they're just the Knicks, and it's like I just know they're just going to New York Knick out. So. We'll see, though. Again, this is a conversation we're going to be having a lot of as the next month. And just some housekeeping things before we close off here. With the podcast coming back, we are aiming and we have scheduled out a podcast after every 3 Celtics games. So the schedule ahead, they have the Oklahoma City Thunder at home Wednesday, March 25th. They then play the Charlotte Hornets on the road Sunday, March 29th. That's at 6. Sorry, the Thunder game is at 7:30. And then they play the Heat on the road back in Miami Wednesday, April 1st at 7:30. The podcast will be posted. Next episode will be posted Thursday, April 2nd. And then furthermore. And then we've even talked about how we're going to do the playoffs. But we'll keep you guys updated when we know for sure, because again, we're still hammering in some housekeeping stuff on our end as well. But again, great first episode back at it. The Celtics are looking to keep on rolling into the postseason, picking up some wins. Guys, I will say this before I close out the show. If you're not following us on all of our social medias, go do that right now. We have a lot of fun things planned and hope to be able to get to do. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you get alerted when we drop a podcast, because again, we're not committing to one day of the week. This is going to be every 3 game ordeal with us. Again, guys, thank you so much.
2 a week. Yeah.
Yeah. You never know. Again, you don't know how the schedule is going to play out. So thank you so much for listening in, watching in, however you're doing. Oh, wait, before I close out, we're back on Spotify. All you Spotify lovers out there, if you're listening in,
Nice.
we're finally back on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you like listening to our beautiful voices instead of looking at our beautiful faces, I've always been told I have a voice for radio or a face for radio.
You messed that up.
I did mess that up. I don't have a. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining us back. We'll see you guys next Tuesday for another episode of the Celtics Talk Weekly Podcast. Guys, I'm Robby, co-host Justin. Guys, until next time, go Celtics.